about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
You're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Well, part of the medical community, not the whole medical community, but part of the medical community has their panties in a bunch because the DOJ is investigating some U.S. medical schools, including Ohio State, Stanford, and UCSD, University of California, San Diego. They're investigating them because the U.S. and the government gives them money. Billions of dollars go to medical schools. However, they are only allowed to they're only allowed to take the money if they are following the laws, Supreme Court rulings as it relates to discrimination. If you have a school that's discriminating, they can't get the funds. So the DOJ opened up a investigation last month to determine if the admissions processes within these medical schools violate federal anti-discrimination laws following the 2023 Supreme Court ruling that restricted affirmative action. So they want to see if certain applicants were discriminated against based on their race, nationality, and if those that got accepted, if there were, shall we say, validity to their acceptance. And this is a tricky topic. Because, on one end, we don't want, shall we say, another country, grooming people to take over American medical schools. And they, completely don't allow any Americans to then end up getting the spots because they have been taking medical school courses since grade school. And their board scores or their MCAT scores are so high that we can't compete. And so I understand that, on the other end, I don't want anybody discriminated against because they're black, white, Hispanic, saying, well, look, we have too many white individuals, or we have too many Hispanic individuals, or we have too many men, or we have too many women. Okay, that's then discriminatory. It's, the Supreme Court gives everybody a chance. You can't discriminate against somebody. Based on perceived privilege. You have individuals who, still are poor, could grow up poor, beaten, neglected. We're supposed to be colorblind, race blind, creed blind. And so the DOJ has rules. It was a 2023 Supreme Court ruling during the Biden administration that all the admissions based on your sex and color of skin, etc., would be unconstitutional. That it has to be fair. Now, from what I understand, there's a lot of lawsuits of students suing that they had better grades, board scores, but they weren't accepted because of their color. And these lawsuits, the precedence is there because we did so much damage to our American population, especially the black community and Hispanic community and minority community, that these laws are there to protect everybody. And the verbiage is nobody is allowed to discriminate based on your color, based on your creed. Somehow, though, in the last few years, some schools decided that what we need to do, though, is to not get in trouble for discriminating. We want to have appear to have a more diverse class. And, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I have heard time and time again, you have an applicant who is X, Y, and Z, grab them. I'm like, but what about their qualifications? Okay. And I understand there's a lot of pressure, of who's being accepted and so, what I would do if I was the medical schools now are concerned that they are going to have to give over very sensitive information on applicants. Now, your medical school application is read by, it's not kept very privately in terms of within the school because school officials can access it, but it's not also public. And so there is some privacy that you get through FERPA with your grades and all that. I understand there is an argument for public health, who's graduating and are they of sound mind? Are they of proper proficiency? And I understand there's an argument, but that's why the boards and the you passing a board or not, now it's on the board. And if the board passes you and you weren't proficient, that's on them. So we do have checks and balances in terms of that. So I don't think we need to oversee everybody's medical school grades. But it has been brought up. Are we, having people proficient? Because there's a lot of people are questioning what's happening with their doctor's offices, and they're like, don't they know this stuff? So it's been a concern, but nobody can practice in America if they aren't passing their USMLE boards. So your Comlex boards or it's I think we do have enough benchmarks that have to be met. Not to mention, to get accepted by a residency, now it's on a hospital. And in a hospital who's accepting you for residency, they don't want somebody that doesn't know their stuff. Sadly, I've heard from some residencies that they do struggle with some of the graduates, and they got to really speed up their learning. And it's been since COVID. COVID has changed a lot, but the good majority of the students, they know what they're doing. So what I would do is, if I was a medical school, is say, government, we don't want your money. I mean, a medical school doesn't need the government's money. They're charging, there's one school that's, I guess, charging $60,000 a year. Per student. That's a lot of students. And they have 150, 170. They're making bank. If the medical schools do not want the DOJ to investigate them, then say, we don't want your money. This way we can accept whoever we want, although there's still laws and civil rights, laws, and the ACLU, will, depending on the case, look at if, somebody was discriminated against or not. But if they're really, really worried that the DOJ is, then you could say no to the money. This is something that I'm wondering is going to later be a turn of things. Like we've talked about with abortion rights. Many people are concerned that, government's involved, and that, if the government's not paying for them and your taxpayers aren't paying for them and your employer's not paying for them, and this is on you, there's a lot more, there's a lot less people in your face about it. So, I'm thinking maybe these medical schools, if they don't want the DOJ looking at them, maybe say, don't give us your money. But I don't think they're going to do that. 1-877-DOC-TELLY.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And I don't know what's going on with my microphone here. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. I really appreciate if my microphone would just stay still. No, boy, this sucker. You know why? I think the microphone doesn't want to listen to me anymore. All right. Well, it's going to be kind of funny looking here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. This is so odd. Thank you guys for being patient with this. I don't know what's going on. I know it kind of sounds funny. That's when your microphone stand decides to have kind of a mind of its own. All right, we're back. Okay, I think the microphone doesn't like this next segment. This next segment is on microlooting. Microlooting is something that we've heard a lot of celebrities and influencers advocate for, where you can steal from big corporations. No, you can't. I'm telling you to not do it. But this is something that influencers and celebrities have been kind of bragging about. I think one even admits that they do it because they say the big corporations owe it to us. They deserve it. So microlooting is where somebody grabs an extra lemon, grabs an extra candy, extra lipstick, gloss, applicator, and they pocket it. They shoplift. They're basically shoplifting. They're breaking the law. But because it's a corporation, say the corporation is going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen. The corporation will not go under. These corporations have already been planning ahead for theft, so they always make a margin. So why not grab the extra goodies? No, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know if you guys remember, but you used to be able to walk into a store like a Walgreens and be able to grab something off the shelf. The last time I was in Walgreens, there was still all these plastic locked bins where if you wanted something, you had to wave and get somebody to come and unlock it so you could get it. And what happened? Well, prices went up. If a company has to prevent against your micro looting, it's going to cost you and I more money now because they have to pay extra for all the added security. Or what we saw with a lot of pharmacies and we see with a lot of stores is they just close. We've seen a lot of Walmarts close. If they couldn't manage the theft, if they weren't turning a profit, they're not going to exist. Not going to be there. So you could stand on whatever soapbox saying, well, they have the money, they're fine. Yeah, but it hurts the rest of us. So who's been telling people to microloot? Well, this guy who's a real piece of work, Hasan Piker. Apparently he told the New York Times he is, quote, pro-stealing and pro-piracy when it comes to corporations. He says, I'm pro-stealing from big corporations because they steal quite a bit more from their own workers. Okay, well, thank you for being such a Robin Hood and trying to be a hero. But when you steal, it ends up screwing the rest of us. So you're actually hurting us even more. On the Opinions podcast, he said, however, one thing that might even help your ethical dilemma is the fact that the automated process that they design, these companies know will increase shrink. He says, so it's actually factored in. He said, the lemons that you stole are factored into the bottom line of these mega corporations regardless. And they still end up having increased profit margins because they no longer have to pay the cashiers that they used to hire, as opposed to this automated system, knowing full well that people are going to be able to steal a lot more efficiently, as a matter of fact, through the automated process. So this micro looting is robbing stores, and not just to feed your family. It's to protest corporations. This is a movement, and this is how dangerous this is going to get. So he says, I'm pro-piracy all the way, like across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes, if you could. This Hasan Piker. I really don't know what he's smoking. So here's a star, an influencer. Her name is Condé Nast. She owns, I guess, a $2.2 million home in Brooklyn, and she microloots. She is 37 years old, and no. Let me see. Let me read this. From Daily Mail, they say the New Yorker contributor Gia Tolento, 37 years old, claims stealing food from Whole Foods Market is not very significant because the supermarket, which is owned by Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos, can't afford the losses and mistreats its workers. Now, Condé Nast admitted to, according to Daily Mail, pilfering small value items like lemons to the New York Times. And, this is all, I think, a part of that same podcast. Now, I see. Vogue publisher, you know what? Tolentino is the one who did it. Okay, you know what? I don't even care anymore. I'm just tired of this whole microlooting. All right, I apologize. We have an attitude that is dangerous. The attitude that we can take on justice ourselves. If you think a corporation is stealing from you or stealing from people, boycott them. Screw them. Boycott them. But two wrongs don't make a right. Don't now steal. If you really feel a corporation is that evil, boycott them. Just don't use their products. The boycott is pretty damn powerful. And if they want to get you back, then they might have to lower their prices and then eat into their perceived profits. But what I noticed, especially after 2020, is the amount of theft that happened where people were just so brazen about it. It ended up costing everybody more. Everything now costs more. How many of you have tried to get some extra ranch dressing for your French fries? They charge you more now. Everything is now charged more. The self-serve for drinks at fast food stations. People were stealing. They'd come in with another cup, or they would save their McDonald's cup all week, walk into the store saying, I'm refilling, and get free soda. Well, after a while, the company says no. And how much does soda cost? And I get it. I know people are like, well, it doesn't cost that much. But apparently it's costing enough for them they're noticing it. Somebody's noticing it. And, corporations, can, not all of them, can screw people over. But this idea that they are hurting their workers, that the big corporation, because there's this big rise, this socialism rise, this anti-capitalism, anti-socialism. And there's this big movement that wants to make all these places look like they are evil. And mind you, I've seen corporations do things, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I've seen academia screw things up. I've seen corporations screw things up. I really miss the mom and pop type of stores, but those stores can't survive anymore. They can't survive in Obamacare. They can't survive in teaching. They can't survive in. So now you have these big corporations. And with big corporations, there can be fraud. Not all of them, but there can also be mismanagement, high prices, poor quality. Well, then, say, no, I'm not going to do it. If you think your college or your university is overcharging you, don't go there. Don't give them your money. Go to a smaller university that gives you the same degree for less money. We do have a buying power. And so if this Hasan guy wants to, boycott corporations, he could do that. He could tell people, guys, I don't like these corporations. I don't like the way they treat the workers. I don't like their values, so I'm not going to buy here. If you guys want to follow me and do the same, all the power to you. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King was a gift from God in terms of teaching people how to protest and do things in non-bloody ways. And we've learned so much, and it was very effective what he was able to do for the civil rights movement. But now there's this, well, you know what? They owe us. When somebody feels like that you owe them, that's dangerous, because that thinking can refer to a rape or to an assault or to when you say, well, all corporations, I don't know anything about Target or Walmart or whatever. I don't know how they treat employees. They could be awesome. They could whatever. But if somebody reads this and goes, okay, well, I'm going to go the next time I go to Walmart and steal. Well, now they're projecting it onto everybody. Now they're just including everybody into this, where every corporation is quote unquote bad. Now, do a lot of corporations, maybe corporations are. I have yet to find a corporation I really, really love. There's always issues in every corporation, but I don't think every corporation steals or mistreats their employees. Everybody feels underpaid and overworked, and every employer feels everybody underworks and is overpaid. That's been since the dawn of time. But that's not on you to go and then steal. Also, I don't understand this idea. Everybody's talking about stealing a lemon. I can understand a lime. See, because if you don't need one lemon. Usually with lemons, I need a lot because I'm making lemonade or I'm cooking with it. A lime, I just need one so I can put on the Coronas. I don't really need a lot of lime. So I'm kind of confused why they're stealing lemons. I'll figure it out. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So Steak and Shake has tapped its first ever Chief MAHA officer, Make America Healthy Again. And so Steak and Shake wants to put health first with its chain. Interesting. I don't have a Steak and Shake near me, but I hear they're really yummy. And so Michael Bose is now taking on a new executive role. I think he used to be a part of HHS. And he's been hired now by Steak and Shake to dedicate advancing nutritional integrity, ingredient transparency, and the healthiness of our products. This is according to the Indianapolis-based company on social media and being reported by Fox News. So they want to make healthier, more transparent ingredients. Now, he used to serve as senior advisor to the HHS. He worked on healthcare policy and strategic initiatives. And he said, during my time serving Secretary Kennedy, I had countless conversations with industry partners about returning to real food. Time and again, I heard the same hesitation. Our customers aren't demanding this. Steak and Shake changed that narrative, and growth followed. He said, fast food doesn't have to mean processed, complicated, artificial. It used to mean real, simple, and delicious, and it can again. So he looks forward to helping drive the next chapter of growth on that foundation. They say Steak and Shake framed the hire as part of a larger effort to return to its roots. They say the move marks a major step in the company's effort to restore the original spirit of American fast food, food that is simple, real, and delicious. So congratulations, Michael Bose, on the new job. Bose said customers should never have to choose between taste and health. So President Donald Trump is happy. He says, awesome. And the chain changed their fries, tater tots, and other fried items to using 100% beef tallow. That eliminates seed oils. And the company says we RFK'd our fries, shifting to beef tallow from vegetable oil, which is supposed to be less caustic to the arteries. The company also said they're working with suppliers to remove seed oils more broadly, calling the transition a journey on its website. Other updates include, according to Fox News, the use of 100% Wisconsin butter in place of seed oils, offering cane sugar Coca-Cola as an alternative to high fructose corn syrup, and switching to A2 milk products using a type of cow's milk that may be easier for some people to digest. Very cool. Steak and Shake has also reportedly indicated plans to move towards grass-fed beef and removing microwaves from kitchens in favor of more traditional cooking methods. Now, they say some of the company's changes have sparked debate. because of beef tallow fat from cows. Other customers think it's very authentic. So I remember, my grandmother, and I'm not saying it was, the healthiest at the time, but we we're poor, and my mom grew up poor, and I guess my grandmother had chickens, so she would take the chicken, kill it, obviously, behead it, cook the chicken, and then use the fat to help cook the chicken, and then she would fry up the pieces of the fat as your starch, and not the healthiest. But she would never use margarine. She would never use, I remember margarine came out. It was really, really big in the 80s. And, they were trying to act like it was safer than butter. The thing with butter and fat is you just don't want to use too much, but you have to look at what your body can digest better, what your body can manage better. And so beef tallow seems to be, something that has had much more, shall we say, promising data as it pertains to these, hydrogenated fats and oils and things like that. As far as I'm concerned, I think people should. I don't really recommend a diet on French fries and fried foods. I really don't. I'd rather you guys, skinless, baked. But for Steak and Shake to at least go taking all this effort to ensure that this is done. I'm kind of amazed that they have a position, a full-time position. You would think once they figure out how to do it, you don't really need that person in that position anymore. It could be more of a consultant. But I'm glad Steak and Shake has that because it's a move in the right direction. But we fast food found a market because they figured out how to make food cheap. Fresh food is more expensive. This is why people were frustrated with Chipotle and all that. When these companies, say, look, our food is fresh. It's not, processed and all that. This is, it's more expensive. This is why when you go to a restaurant and you want to get fresh fish or fresh lobster, where they kill the lobster, which, by the way, lobsters can feel being boiled. So we got to find a better way to euthanize them before they get thrown into a boiling pot of water where it could take a couple of minutes for them to die. It's pretty barbaric. So be nice to your lobsters that you're about to eat. Kill them quickly, please. But fresh, is more expensive. It's harder to do. And I've worked in restaurants, and we would get the food would come in frozen, and they would have to defrost. Then we would cook them, and then we would, and in order for those foods to stay fresh, they had to be preserved. And the preservatives are things that our bodies didn't necessarily want to have. Now, it wasn't a big deal in the olden days because you barely had preservatives. Most of your food was still farm fresh. You would, but after the Industrial Revolution, and many of us lived in cities, and we had to get food, and then the rise of fast food in the 40s and 50s and 60s, as people started to work and moms were in the more in the workplace, the idea of having 2 or 3 hours to home cook meals started to not exist. And so fast food is like, but we have a whole meal for you. We have a bucket of chicken. We have a basket of burgers. We have, and so, people went for that and it also started to become cheaper. Now, every time I go to the grocery store, every time, I'm dropping $100 to $150. And I could cook a few meals out of that. And I could, I try to only spend that once a week, but it doesn't cover dinners for a week. Yet somebody could go in and out burger and get a $3.56 burger and get 5 of those and feed a family, for under $20. So, fast food is, and also with high fructose corn syrup. This high fructose corn syrup is so dangerous. It's making people diabetic. It's clogging their arteries. Our body knows how to manage sugar, which we should limit. We really should be limiting the amount of sugar. But I don't like high fructose corn syrup. And somehow our sodas have changed. Mexico, Coca-Cola has regular sugar. In fact, I think even Pepsi decided to go back to regular sugar, but then that got expensive. I don't recommend anybody drinking soda pop. Once in a while, I get, that's fine. But we should be drinking water. We should be drinking, healthier foods. But at least they're thinking about that. And the MAHA movement, is doing a good job with that. California started with a lot of the California gets credit for spearheading a lot of the let's avoid Sudan red dye and yellow for some of the other things that they decided to they limit in terms of artificial flavorings and toxins and food and toxins and products. I'm glad they did that. That was a good move. But we need to take it on a national level. And what I'm seeing, in restaurants and all that is because food's expensive. And it might mean that fast food is not going to be $1.99, or you might not be able to have a 99-cent meal menu or something like that. It's going to change. But I'd rather people eat healthier. I'd rather people eat smaller, healthier portions than, having a supersized fries where they're getting acrylamide, too much salt, fat, oil. I mean, we're unhealthy. Just look at pictures of us compared to pictures in the 60s and 70s. We are unhealthy. We can't run. We're doing, I'll ask people, I'm like, are you having any shortness of breath? No more than usual. I go, what about going upstairs? Oh, I can never go upstairs. I go, you're 34. And any medical issues? No. I just get winded going upstairs. Okay. Well, one, they better get their heart checked. And then if their heart is fine, they might need to get back into shape. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So some of you guys are asking about marijuana stocks. We talked about those. There are some marijuana stocks that are starting to go up as President Donald Trump is reclassifying state licensed medical marijuana. This doesn't mean he is legalizing on a federal level. I don't believe he has the ability to legalize it on a federal level. However, he is able to, by executive order, change the classification. And so the Trump administration has moved to reclassify it through an executive order. This happened, I thought, though, a few months ago. where he moved it from a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act. So Schedule 1 drugs, let me just go through the scheduling. So your controlled substance schedule will have different classifications. Your Class 1 drugs are the ones that have high potential for abuse, no medical uses for treatment. So in the Class 1 drugs is your heroin, LSD, PCP, ecstasy, marijuana. So you could see why marijuana being a Schedule 1 doesn't make a lot of sense, because we are using marijuana medicinally. We do have pharmaceutical compounds for Dravet's, for which is a very highly severe pediatric seizure disorder, for glaucoma, Marinol for appetite, loss of appetite during chemotherapy. So it hasn't made a lot of sense that marijuana was in a Schedule 1, because Schedule 1 means you can't use them for medicine. And there's, a lot of now uses for that. So it's starting to become a little obsolete. Category 2 drugs, which is what I would have probably moved marijuana to. I probably would have moved it to a Category 2 first. Category 2 still has a high potential for abuse, but it has accepted medicinal use for treatment. So in Category 2, you got your oxycodone, you got methamphetamines, you got morphine. So we use it medicinally, but we are aware that there's a high potential for abuse. So let's say like your Percocet. Your Percocet would be Category 2. Your Lortab, your hydrocodone, is now a Category 3. Less abuse potential than Category 2 drugs, accepted medical use. So Category 3 with your Lortab, your anabolic steroids, now will have marijuana in that same class. So still classified as a controlled substance, but not as severe, because Category 1 is considered illegal, right? Because there's no medicinal treatment, what are you doing with it? Whereas if you have morphine or oxycodone on hand, it really helps for you to have a prescription. Otherwise, people think that you got it, back alley type of thing. So you definitely want to have kind of proof. And then Category C, drugs, less abuse. Category 4, less abuse than 3. But that's your phentermine for weight loss, Xanax, Valium. Those are more Category 4. And then your Category 5 is like your cough medicines with codeine. Codeine is still a controlled substance because of abuse potential, but it's not as abused as others, and it's in the Category 5. So Schedule 3 drugs still have moderate potential for abuse, but because there's medicinal uses, it's a little less stringent than compared to Category 2. In terms of like prescribing, whether something is a 1, 2, 3, whatever, I mean, I still follow the same process. I remember you were able to call in Category 3, but you had to write out the Category 2s. I would just always write out my prescriptions. I just wanted to make sure everything was done by the book, because I didn't want anybody stealing or whatever. And so, other countries or other regions may have different classifications, so ours might not necessarily match every other country, but that's kind of where we are. So, Trump's acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed the order on Thursday and said that the Department of Justice was delivering on President Trump's promise to improve American health care. These actions will enable more targeted, rigorous research into marijuana safety and efficacy, expanding patients' access to treatments, and empowering doctors to make better informed healthcare decisions. So, this comes from after we talked about ibogaine. And ibogaine is found in the root bark of a West African shrub, and it's been in, a higher classified category because of its propensity for abuse. However, there has been many testimonials by patients who have traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder that it helped them to some degree. And so, Trump said, you're going to get the rescheduling done, right? Please, will you get the rescheduling done? They're slow talking me on rescheduling. You're going to get it done, right? And so he doesn't want he wants, this to be done. And I understand we got an election coming up and, he thinks that's going to help. But I don't mind what he's doing on this because we do need to research it and understand what we're doing. The other reason why I also want more research is I think we have a lot of misconstruities and misinformation on marijuana. I am seeing high school students just completely, now that marijuana is legal in multiple states, and it's still illegal by the federal government. I mean, what I want to see is it studied. I don't want to see cops overwhelmed by having to deal with criminality as it relates to that and possession and things like that. But on the other end, I don't want these high school kids on it. I don't want the average young adult or adult on it not understanding the risks. Heart attack, stroke, psychosis. When that girl who was smoking a bong with her boyfriend goes into psychosis and stabs him 108 times, and I think California just gave her community service because they say it was the drug that I don't understand. That's, to me, murder one. That's, well, I understand it's not murder one because it wasn't intent, but still, it's murder. That was a case a couple of years ago. These are dangerous. You do not want to smoke a bong with somebody who might have the potential to go into marijuana and do psychosis. We got to have those warnings out there, but we need to study it more. We need to know about it more. Alcohol is dangerous also, but it's not, made illegal. It's not criminalized. It's criminalized for a DUI. And public intoxication or other things and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. But for the most part, people can very easily use it, and then they have to, be smart about it. People will abuse. People are abusing marijuana. It does have high abuse potential. And I think it's because you get dependent on it. People are using it for sleep. They're using it to get through the day. They're using it for boredom. They're using it for anxiety, for depression. And for some people, it's really helping their symptoms. For others, it could be making it worse. So right now, we're kind of in this impasse where we don't really know, we aren't really educating people to the degree that we need to. And it's all about more the, people have a right to have access to it. Maybe something like this is going to then, re-emphasize the need to study it. And it's still going to be controlled. There's still going to be, but it's just not going to be wrongly classified now that we have medicinal uses. And I think there's even more. I think the cannabis plant, depending on the strains, sativa, indica, hybrids, depending on certain strains, there might be some amazing benefits. And we learned this because of our Vietnam vets, Korean vets, and, our baby boomers who said, look, this is what I've been using. And in fact, I have a suspicion that marijuana might be increasing insulin sensitivity and decreasing insulin resistance in some people. I'd like to see it studied in diabetes. But in order to do that, we got to get it out of the illegal category. Now, Trump is not legalizing it per se, but it does help us be able to study it. I think 40 states now have it legal in some way or another. I think more are going to with this next next election. So we'll see what happens. In terms of stocks, some stocks to watch. Hold on a second. Let me give you Canopy stock, which is, let me give you the numbers really quick. CGC, Aurora Cannabis is ACB. Titre, I don't know much about that one. TLRY, look at the stocks. They might be going up. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800 JBS USA 1 today.